Andrew Czysz Jr. presents a Carthage College sports media project incorporating its esports program and Rocket League team. Welcome to the Carthage Esports Rocket and Roll Birds podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Carthage Esports Rocket and Roll Birds podcast. I am Andrew Czysz Jr., Carthage Esports lead broadcaster. Pleased to be bringing you episode 3 of this wonderful podcast. On episode 2, we talked about Carthage Esports competitive scene and achievements within the last 3 to 4 years that we have been an entity here at Carthage College. The 28th sports and first ever co-ed esports of Carthage College. And episode 3, we'll talk more about the actual esports facility itself, the resources around it, and also the student involvement here as well. So to get us started for esports facility and resources, one of the common questions that we get asked all the time is, where do the players practice and compete? So at Carthage, there is a designated spot in the basement of the Todd Weir Center, right next to where the Health and Counseling Center is, as well as the student mailroom. When you first walk into the Todd Weir Center, you take a hard left. You'll see the mailroom, you'll see the health and counseling, you also see the engagement and inclusion center as well. On the right of that, you see the Center of Student Success, but if you go hard left, you keep going down that hallway, yes, you'll see the health and counseling center, but to the right of that, you will see the Carthage Esports Arena. The first thing you'll see is trophies plastered everywhere. A little spot right next to the stairs. So as I'm talking about the esports facility, I'll throw in some B-roll footage so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, Carthage has a designated spot for the players in the Todd Weir Center's basement for the esports arena. And this is where all varsity members practice and compete in various tournaments and leagues. We went over the competitive structures as well. We have the National Esports Collegiate Conference, NECC, and Wisconsin Esports Conference, WEC, as our two major providers for competition for Carthage. Outside of that, Rocket League has several different organizations, including Midwest Collegiate Rocket League, Wisconsin Collegiate Rocket League, and so on. Another question we usually get is, what kind of gaming equipment and technology does Carthage provide now? When we're giving tours, sometimes people ask about the esports arena, sometimes they don't, but when they do, they like to know what we have. Like any tech-savvy individuals that might be interested in joining in either being as a player or as part of our media team, they tend to ask, what do we have for everybody? So like I said before, I'll have some B-roll footage playing in the background, but any esports arena, Carthage has worked to provide an exceptional amount of hardware for it to look professional. And the equipment includes 24 high-end gaming PCs. These PCs have the capabilities of running all of the major titles that Carthage offers with Overwatch, Rocket League, Valorant, League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, Counter-Strike Global Offense. All of those games can run on those PCs. I don't know the exact technical specifications, but just know they are very high-end, and they adapt to the fast network speeds, which we'll talk about later on. We have a full broadcast studio / classroom. So originally in that basement of the Todd Weir, there was a classroom, and it was later redesigned into a broadcasting studio. I know we talked about in episode 1 the origin story of Carthage Esports becoming a thing with Kevin Palmer and Jordan Ball combining to have the esports task force to start getting funds raised for everything down there. And one of the renovations was turning that classroom into the actual broadcasting room. So when you first walk in there, it's like a normal classroom. You know, you have about 6 tables lined up, 3 in each column, or each row, I should say. And there's a couple on the back wall. There's a bunch of chairs in there. But when you go behind the curtain, you see a big black curtain. And when you walk into the actual broadcasting section, you'll notice that it is the Carthage Esports backdrop, which is just a nice thing to have on camera. And speaking of cameras, as soon as you walk in, you'll see the table with a little sticky paper line drawn on it to make sure that the camera is always centered while we broadcast. On the left of the broadcasting desk, you will see a PC, which you can actually see in the thumbnail here. So this PC operates the stream. So the left monitor is usually used for like Discord chats, music, making sure the Twitch information is updated on the stream. And if any other like urgent messages happen, the producer has the capability to talk to the broadcasters who are sitting at the table to let them know, hey, so and so is doing this, or so and so, disconnected from the lobby or something like that, or so and so's player has these stats, something like that. The producer is one of the most vital roles in Carthage Esports. We'll get to talking about that later. And a little bit towards the right, you can kind of see on the thumbnail, that's the main screen. So we use a software called vMix, which is a broadcasting software where you can set up multiple scenes for different things. We have several scenes set up for switching out the camera for the broadcasters to focusing in on the game. It's a very complex system, but it is a broadcasting software that we are pleased to use. And there are other options, such as open broadcasting software, which is a simpler version of that and doesn't require much. There's also Streamlabs, which is similar to open broadcasting software in the fact that it's simple and convenient to use, but vMix just kind of provides us more of customization when it comes to what we want to do with our overlays on the stream. So that's it for the full broadcast studio. Next thing is comfortable lounge, featuring several large screen TVs, always featuring something worth watching. So we have been sponsored in the past by Spectrum Furniture, who is our main provider of the couches and all the things you see in sort of the pictures of the esports arena. When a team wins the championship. Speaking of that, the Valorant team just won their Division 7 NECC championship for spring 2025 yesterday, as I'm recording this today, April 8th. So congratulations to the Valorant team on that victory. It was a hard-fought 5-map series. They won 3-1 over the Robert Morris University Colonials. So hats off to them. It's a nice little segue into what I'm talking about. And the several large screen TVs. So above the varsity stations for competing, I believe there's 3 large TVs above that. And then there's also 2 plastered on the wall for everybody to view the action that's happening. Now, this action can include live Twitch streams, and when nobody's streaming, we usually put a Twitch stream on in the background if somebody's working the arena during, public hours or something like that. So the space is very versatile. It's used for fueling that competitive edge, is having the spectators watch the product while it's happening live. And also just to embrace in a chill environment and welcome everybody, regardless if they're a varsity member, club member, or just somebody visiting. And the Carthage Esports Arena is kitted with 2 bring your own console BYOC stations. They each have 55-inch 4K gaming TVs. So basically what this means is if you bring a Nintendo Switch, for example, you can just bring your console itself. We have the docking station for it to be displayed on the TV. All you have to do is ask to get a key to open it from the esports director, whoever's working behind the desk, and you can just play it during the public hours. If you have a 1-hour break in between classes, for example, you just come down, ask for the key, plop your Switch in the dock, and just play like that until you're done. And then make sure you lock the compartment back up, put the key where it was supposed to be originally, and you're on your merry way. So that's another one of those great things about the Carthage Esports Arena, is we are inclusive to anybody, any guest as well. So you can definitely bring your own console there, preferably the Nintendo Switch. And the 4K gaming TVs just give it more glamour. as we live in an era where most video games are played in 4K resolution. And speaking of that, the Switch 2 will accomplish that for Nintendo. But that's not what we're talking about here specifically. Talking about Carthage Esports. So we'll keep it on topic. High speed internet of 1000 megabits per upload and download speed. So it's the fastest on campus. So with that high speed, some people are just going to come down there just to do their homework, and why not? I mean, the connection is so seamless down there that it's a great study space for students. Not a lot of people talk about that as well. But yeah, the esports arena can be used as a study space if you want it to be a study space. So keep that on your radar for those of you who are watching this, as that is a good study spot, an underrated study spot, I will say. As we have other areas such as, the David Strass, for example, where you can look out and see the beautiful lake on any given day and stuff like that. And there's other spots in that building as well. But the esports arena is also a chill place to study, so don't forget about that. Another question we get about the esports facility and resources is, do the students have access to coaching, training, or analytical tools? Yes, the students can access all three of these avenues, as each varsity title has an assigned head coach. The coaches work with the students to review video on demand, aka VOD files, of previous matches to decide how to improve as a team. Training falls into the same category. In the summer before each academic year, there are student boot camps designed to help build team chemistry and ensure physical exercise is incorporated. Outside of this, some varsity titles offer in-game training simulations. Some examples are Rocket League and Overwatch. Now, Rocket League offers a player custom map through a software called Bacchus Mod. These maps are designed for players to practice their in-air maneuverability. In Overwatch, there is an in-game shooting range and other software to help improve a player's aim. The same thing for Overwatch applies to games like Valorant and CSGO. And Rainbow Six Siege recently added a shooting range into their system, and they have the whole Aim Labs software, which is another tool for players to, sharpen their aim. And analytical resources are available through leagues with corresponding websites that display statistics on other teams. Now, sometimes all of the other teams don't display their statistics right away, so that could be a little bit frustrating for players who consistently want to get that information from like a site like the National Esports Collegiate Conference. I know Carthage does a great job of making sure that happens. We report the score. Sometimes we report our stats, but it depends on the game. For Rocket League, for example, there's a website called Ball Chasing, which will track the actual replays from matches, and one of the players on the team can upload them publicly. And then, a broadcaster like me could go in that software, search it up, and get the statistics that way, which is very, very helpful for promoting material. As if you've been paying attention to the broadcast for Carthage Rocket League Red, I've been able to sprinkle in some statistical analysis, and we'll be doing that for the actual season recap of Carthage Red, which will be coming soon. Don't worry about that. And continuing on with the analytical resources, it's a valuable resource for Carthage teams to utilize when looking at how good their upcoming competition is. And this is like the same ideology that sports like football have, where you have your days of film where you go over what to improve as a team, and you watch the other team's film if it's available. You see, hey, what can we do to counterattack what this team is going to throw at us? What do we expect them to throw at us? Stuff like that. And then dedicated days for practicing, and then obviously the game days. So it's sort of like the intramural sport format for esports. However, it is different because, yes, it is a video game. However, the same formula applies. These students are still getting those critical team building skills, problem solving skills on the fly. And that's what's really important for the esports player. So that's pretty much it for the esports facility and resources. Again, while I'm talking throughout, I'll have B-roll footage playing of the esports facility and resources. And we'll move on to student involvement and community. So, the most common question in this category that I get asked, as well as others in the esports space: how can students join the esports program? So, students can join the esports program by contacting Director of Esports Robert Young. Students can be recruited to compete in varsity titles. Additionally, these students can also join through club teams or by joining our content and creative teams. So, this is where the bread and butter is for me personally, as I am not a varsity player. I am a part of Carthage's content creative teams. So, in particular, the content and creative team offers the following positions: broadcaster, color and play-by-play, graphic designer, photographer, social media manager, stream producer, and videographer. And all of these positions can be a part of each esport title. It is not exclusive to one specific esports title, because we have different graphic designers for, say, games like Smash Bros. And a game like Rainbow Six Siege, for example. Not everybody can make the same time frame to have that job for the full time. That's why we have multiple graphic designers. We have one social media manager as of now. We have an abundance of stream producers for different games. It's always nice to have depth in that position where, say, a game gets rescheduled, for example, from its original time. Say it's like a Tuesday at 7 p.m., but something happens with the other team. They had to reschedule, so they do it for the next day, Wednesday at like 5 p.m., for example. That stream producer that was supposed to be there for Tuesday 7 p.m. as the match was originally scheduled cannot be there. So it's always nice to have that backup option, which is nice about Carthage. We get a lot of people who want to be stream producers, so that's nice. Videographer, kind of the same thing as photographer. We have one or two of those at most, but we're always looking for more, as you know, the graphic designers and photographers and videographers and face in place, excuse me, might be, you know, on their way towards graduating. So definitely we would need more help in that aspect, just to get somebody trained to be comfortable with taking over the position once that junior turned into a senior and then graduates the next year. That freshman or sophomore that comes in will know what to do when the time comes. And for broadcasters, we have a plethora of them. Some have had a lot of experience, like myself, with broadcasting. Others are just getting started, and that's okay, because the ones who have the wisdom are able to work with the ones that are just getting started and, you know, sort of take them under our wing and make sure that they develop those professional skills that they need for broadcasting. You know, not getting too nervous or shy when you're on the camera, not using filler words that much, and things of that nature. And it's really fun to, you know, pull in somebody who's interested and have them work their way to get better, because once they get better, they can see the improvement themselves. And when you have basically taken them under your wing, you'll be able to be proud that you helped them out and help elevate the program even more. That's what I try to do here as well. You know, obviously I strive to be the best that I can be, but I also want to uplift the people who have put me in the position that I have been in, to sort of reinforce the culture here at Carthage Esports. So it really means a lot to me that I get to be one of their lead broadcasters, but I take that position humbly, and I try to build up as much talent around me as possible to make sure we have a solid lineup all across the board. So moving on, another question we usually get in this category is: are there casual gaming groups for non-competitive players? And to answer that question, yes. Carthage welcomes casual gaming groups for non-competitive players. The esports arena is open to all current students, faculty, and staff at Carthage College during public hours. The public has access to 18 out of the 24 gaming PCs and the 2 console stations. Now, the reason why they have access to the 18 out of 24 is because the 6 lined up in a row, like right when you walk down the stairs to the esports arena, to your right, those are reserved for the varsity gaming athletes. So The public is off limits from touching those, just to make sure that those PCs are always, healthy, good to go for the competitions and practices that different teams have. And the 18 to 24 are more so scattered across on the right side of the arena, right outside of the broadcasting room. So the PCs are preloaded with many of the most popular game titles, and users are limited to 3 hours of gaming per day, and they are free of charge. And I'll post the public hours as a picture on here, just so you guys are able to see when the public hours are. And we usually have an arena worker as well. That's another spot that you could work in the esports arena, is being a arena worker. So that's basically making sure that the arena stays clean, everything gets put away nicely, such as like keyboards and controllers that are, used, that are just asked for from the person working at the desk. They're returned properly. The headphones are, corded up properly. The chairs are pushed in properly. The monitors are positioned properly. The floors are clean. Everything is clean. So basically, you help out with managing the health and well-being of the esports arena at all times. As far as like when your shift is, we have several people that work in the esports arena. It just depends on what time they're available. They usually fill out a form. We have a manager that oversees all of the people in position of that. So it's a really secure system and consistent as well with, who's running it and who signs up for it, who's able to work those positions, stuff like that. So it's a very fluid system that we have at the Carthage Esports Arena as far as who runs the desk during the days. And the final question for the student involvement and community section that we usually get is, how does esports help students build communities and friendships? Now, esports helps students build community and friendships by providing a shared space for students to connect around a common interest, encouraging teamwork and promoting inclusivity, which can lead to stronger social bonds and a sense of belonging. This is 100% true for myself, as before esports was even brought to my attention in high school, I had no idea how I was going to become something that I am today, which is a broadcast journalist. I've always had the dream to become a football broadcaster for the NFL, but I just didn't know how that was going to happen. But with Horlick Esports, I was able to, get involved with that and really understand the power of esports, because esports is just more than meets the eye. I don't mean to quote Optimus Prime there, but in all seriousness, it really is. This entity can really help shape the future generation. I mean, just look at a guy like myself who really just got off to a hot start with esports broadcast. I didn't start out well. It's like most things when you try it out for the first time, it doesn't really go too well. But like as you put in the time and the effort to improve, the results show, and they show that people like me are dedicated to this space, and we want to get esports more recognition because it is a really helpful platform for kids to learn, social skills, team working skills, problem solving skills, professional skills that would be useful in the workplace, like leadership, stuff like that. So that is why esports is so special, and that's why it does help build community and friendships. And networking is also a huge, huge thing for esports. I can't tell you how valuable networking is. So that's another one of those benefits. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode 3 of the Carthage Esports Rocket and Rollbirds podcast. Today we talked about the facility resources and student involvement within the Carthage Esports arena. In the next episode, we'll take a look at academic/career opportunities and the future of Carthage Esports in episode 4, before we get on to the one-on-one player interviews with our Carthage Rocket League Red Squad from the spring 2025 season, which are Alex Vale, Penn Gilchrist, and Armando Hernandez. But before then, we'll have episode 4. We'll dive into the one-on-one interviews, and then we will have the full season recap from Carthage Reds spring 2025 Rocket League season. But that's all for this episode, and be sure to rocket and roll, birds.